Hey everybody, so in this video we're going to take our layered project and implement it into Wwise. There are two ways to do this. In this video I'm going to explain how to use switch containers within Wwise to switch between one layer and two layers. So the first thing I want to do is open up the Wwise launcher, and I'm then going to open up Wwise by hitting Launch Wwise. The version that you're using in your class may be a little different. That's okay. Next, it's going to open up the project launcher. I want to create a brand new project and put it on my desktop. And I'm going to call it Michael Sweet Layered Switch. I'm going to add in the Mac platform here. And then I don't need either one of these factory asset components. So I'll select none and hit OK. Then it will build a folder on my desktop that is Michael Sweet Layered Switch. Brings up the license manager next. I will close that. And the first thing I want to make sure to do is go to Layouts, Designer Layouts. And if your screen doesn't look like mine, then you can go to Layouts, Reset Factory Layouts. You can select everything and then reset the layouts. Okay. Next, I need my layered pieces. And so I'm going to go over to my Finder. I have my wave files here, and I'm going to drag in just the first one. So my first layer. And if you recall, when we import a wave file, it puts it on a track automatically for us. And in fact, I'm going to name that track here. Put track at the end, just so I know what it is. It also has an icon with a single wave on it, where this one has multiple waves. That's a segment. So I'll go ahead and just rename this one. Call it segment. Then segments do not loop on their own. We want to make sure to loop this. And so I'll just check the wave file to make sure that it's running. And I can hear it. This music is from Walden, and this is the early fall, so kind of shivering, my shivering violin there. All right, so next thing that I want to do is put this in a playlist because I want it to loop. So I'll go ahead and right-click here, New Parent, Playlist. Now, there are two parts to making a playlist. I'm going to call this Playlist Layer 1. Two parts to it. When I first make it, it does put it in the hierarchy here, but it doesn't actually know yet what I want it to play. So I have to drag the segment into the sequence editor here, and I want to drag it in and then loop it infinitely here. All right, so we're looking pretty good. We have a wave file that got put on a track, that got put into a segment, and that segment now is in a playlist that plays that segment infinitely. All right, so that's good. Now, and you may want to check it too. You can play it and hear it loop if you want to. Next thing I'm going to do is copy that whole structure two more times. So I'm going to copy this, actually just one more time. Copy, I will copy it here and then paste it on the default work unit. So now I have playlist layer 01, and I'm going to change that to 2. And I'm going to open it up and look at my segment here. And I can take my second layer that I have here and drag it onto this segment here. And it's going to add a brand new track for me right there. So now I have inside of it, if I look, I have 1 and 2. I'm going to name this track maybe 2 because that's a track as well. Remember the icon, it has just a single wave here. So I'll go into here and just call this a track. So WAV files on the tracks, tracks into segments. And now this one, playlist 2, layer 2, should play both of these at the same time in the segment too. So I'll look at it, the segment. So you can hear this one has a harp in it. I think some piano too. All right. And then we're going to take playlist layer 2 and copy it again. And then paste it. And this one we're going to call playlist layer 3 for 3 layers. But it only has 2 in it right now. Let's add that third layer. So when I go into this segment, I can see both of these, just like playlist layer 2. And then I'll go ahead and add in my third layer here. You can see too that there are actually 4 layers in the actual Walden game, but I'll only use the 3. Now drop it into the segment here, and it will add a track. So now I have 3 tracks stacked on top of one another. I can open this up and see, oh yeah, here's my third track that I have, and I'm going to name that with a track at the end. And if I play it back, I should hear all 3 together. So you can hear the strings, the shivery violin, and the harp in there. So I'm going to save this. Control S and Command S on a Mac both work inside of Wwise. So I have these 3, and I can play, the first layer if I want, or one with 2. This one has the violin and the harp, or just the first layer. And we're going to use a switch container to switch between these 3. So I'm going to select all 3 of them, right click, new parent, and then a switch. So now this music happens to be the early fall music. So I could call it early fall switch. And now I have to give it some information about the game itself. And I do that in the Game Syncs tab here. So I switch to the Game Syncs tab, and I'm going to have 3 states in a state group. So I'll go to states, open that up, new child, state group, and I'll call it intensity. But this could be something else. It could be your game state, going between explore and running away. It could be whatever. I'm using sort of intensity here. That's what we used in the game Walden. And then I'm going to have 3 different intensities, low, medium, and high. So I'm adding, right-clicking, we're adding states to this state group. So low, medium, and high. And just so it's a little bit easier to understand, I'm going to call this intensity group because it is a state group. So maybe intensity state group. I don't need to add that, but sometimes it's helpful kind of to understand, oh, this is a state group consisting of 3 states, low, medium, and high. All right, now I go back to my audio tab here, and then I have to select the switch again. So I'll switch over to the switch, and then I tell this switch what state to use by using this double arrow icon, and choose state group, intensity state group. And you'll see I have low, medium, and high, and I can drag layer 1 to low, layer 2 to medium, and layer 3 to high. There's only one other thing that I need to do to get this to work. So I have to, on my screen, I have to open up this a little bit, this window a little bit. And then in transitions, what I want to do with transitions, I currently had the transition tab up. So I went to, so make sure you're on the switch, go to transitions, then we changed the default transition. So we're not going to wait all the way to the end of the piece. We are going to have it happen immediately. So when we go from low to medium or low to high, it immediately goes there. Then we want to make sure our destination, the music that we're coming into, does not go to the start. We want it to be the same time as playing segment. So if we're at 30 seconds in the first playlist, we jump to 30 seconds in the second one. Two more things, and then we can go ahead and listen. We're going to add a fade out on the source. The source of the music is coming from, and I'll make this equal power. And then choose my fade time. So let's say it's a 1 second fade time. And we want the music to fade after the destination begins. So I'll make it 1 and then offset it 1 so it goes down this way. So the source is fading out, and we want the destination to fade in. So in the opposite way. So we'll jump down here. The destination, so if we're going from 1 layer to 2 layer, then we will go fade in here, edit, and then we'll choose equal power. And then we'll do also a 1 second fade, but we want it to fade while the source is playing too. So we'll do -1 on the offset, like that. And then we're kind of ready to play this thing. In the transport, make sure that you're selected on display states. And I'm going to start with my low state here, which plays 1 layer. Oops, I have to reselect it here. Okay. Sometimes Wwise gets a little confused, and so sometimes we have to reselect things. Make sure that your switch is in your transport control, and I'll go ahead, select low, hit play. I should hear the shivery strings. I also have some little, like a pan drum. Then when I go to medium, I'll hear a little bit more of my music, more of the harp, more of the piano. And then when I add in the high, it's going to be all 3 layers. Third layer has some woodwind and some strings in it. But let's say I want to go back to low. It's doing the crossfade, so now I'm going back to low. So I'll take out those, now it'll just be the shivery strings basically, which don't play all the time. But then I can go back to high, and it will kind of switch between these 3 different layers in the way that I want them to. And you built a full switch, which allows me to go between just 1 layer, 2 layers, and 3 layers. Let me know if you have any questions.